Hello and welcome to EnergyTech Essentials from the Net Zero Technology Centre. I'm delighted to be joined today by Eric Doyle, and you're kicking off a series of podcast webinars where we're going to dive in a little bit into some of the key areas that if you're an energy tech startup, maybe you've launched already, maybe you are thinking about setting something up, some of the key elements that help you build and develop your business. We're going to have a bit of a deep dive conversation today with Eric from Crux Consultancy, all about digital commercial strategy for founders, because Eric has been part of our TechX program over the past few years, working with our entrepreneurs to help them build their digital influence. And we thought it would be a great place to start our conversation all around how founders can help build their digital influence. So welcome, Eric. How are you today?
I'm very well. I can't believe I'm the first.
I know.
It's an honor. I'm truly honored to be here, and really looking forward to the next the amount of time that we have together.
Thank you. So I guess an opening question today, we're going to talk a lot about digital commercial strategy, but if you were in the position of maybe an energy tech founder who's starting something up, how would you start building your digital influence? What is the starting place if you are an energy entrepreneur and thinking, well, what does my digital strategy look like? My digital influence approach look like?
Wow. Thank you, Edward. It's a fabulous question because it assumes that we're already thinking digital, because the digital transformation of our commercial lives has become so important. In the last 10 years, 5 years, particularly since COVID, it has ramped up considerably. Gartner, the enormous business consultancy, have tracked this digital transformation of our commercial lives pretty much to the month. And they've been fabulous at predicting what's going to happen with, if you come into my office in 2017, which was when I started to think about this and said the future is going to be about digital. When I was running energy service companies, it's going to be about social media. It's going to be about building communities online. I would have laughed at you. It's ridiculous, right? We're serious, technical, scientific business people. What on earth is social media going to do for us? But that change, digital transformation for us back in the day used to mean, before all of this, used to mean ERP systems, CRM systems, things that helped us internally become more efficient. Over the last 10, ramping up over 5, accelerating over the last 2, that digital transformation has enveloped our commercial lives. And Gartner, who've tracked this beautifully, as I said, are now saying that 85% of all sales to buyer, investor, new hire, whatever it might be, interactions are going to occur in digital channels by the end of 26.
Wow.
So 85% of all commercial B2B interaction, the first little synapse connection is going to start in a digital channel. Now, lots of people freak out about that and think, oh, does that mean bots speaking to bots? No, it doesn't. It means that the first place we're going to meet, the first place we're going to have a conversation, the first place we're going to start to build that little core kernel of a relationship is going to be in a digital channel. And then we take it into meeting rooms, Zoom chats, Teams calls, all of that. And then we do what we do and we get to know each other. So if that is the opportunity that 85% of B2B interactions, commercial B2B interactions are going to occur in digital channels, we need to accept the fact that we need a really good strategy and a really good plan for how we appear, how we behave, and what we do in digital channels. So that's where I would start. That's where I would start, is to develop a strategy to make sure that how myself and my co-founder or our team are turning up on digital channels to start conversations, regardless of the stage of our development, regardless of our TRL level, to start conversations, to get interest going, to start to form the kernels of relationship.
That's really interesting. And especially in this business to business environment, because I think a lot of energy tech founders probably would not have thought of that as their primary strategy. They think that, we've seen how digital tools are used for selling consumer products, but actually in terms of how do you sell an energy technology or a big piece of equipment, actually that strategy in terms of the digital channels being so prominent is probably something that comes up, is needing to come up a lot more and more. So what you talk about those digital channels, what are some of these channels? If you're, again, an energy tech founder and you're thinking, well, actually, social media is not for me, I'm not the marketing, I'm the head of engineering, or I'm the CEO, what digital channels do they need to start thinking about as part of building that strategy?
Thank you. So yes, I totally get this. Since 2017, I work with PLCs, SMEs, startups, science companies, technology companies, to help them get a grip of this, how this digital bit. So the question we ask is, who are the leading technical and commercial digital influencers in your sector? And if you can't think of who it is, that's an opportunity. If you're thinking that it might be a competitor, that's an issue, but it's also an opportunity as well, because we need to start getting good at this. The digital world, commercial world, is primarily focused on LinkedIn because it's the world's largest digital professional networking site. It has 1.25 billion user accounts, and it's the place where even LinkedIn themselves say that when LinkedIn first started in Reid Hoffman's bedroom in New York in 2003, he thought he would make a little jobs board and a place where you could put up that you had a pump for sale, or you had a thing that did a thing, and you could put up your CV saying I need a job. And for many years it was that. When Microsoft bought LinkedIn in 2016, they decided that it was far too much focused on here's a thing, do you want to buy a thing? And it was very limited. They decided with the operators at LinkedIn to build the world's largest digital networking site, right? So that's what they say they are. So if they are the world's largest digital professional networking site, we really need to look at what networking means. Networking has always meant getting to know each other, getting to establish a relationship with each other. Networking was never about you and I bumping into each other at a show and you saying, hi, Eric, how you doing? And I go, brochure, buy my stuff. Brochure, buy my stuff.
Yeah.
It's about getting to know each other, right? It's about getting to know each other. It's about establishing that initial impression that these people seem like us, or nice people to work with, or they seem, just establishing that little footprint. So it's a place to network that you then build upon. Networking is always the starting point of a commercial relationship, unless that commercial relationship has come about by other means. That's why networking events exist. We bump into each other. What is it? How's life? How's things? Blah, blah, blah. Where do you come from? Fantastic. What's your sort of area of business? Well, I'm in this and I'm in that. Oh, fabulous. That's incredible. How long have you been doing it? Chat, 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 chat. Maybe we should meet and have a cup of coffee. So that's what networking is all about. It's just gathering information, making initial impressions, understanding everybody, and seeing if we can do what LinkedIn's mission statement is: to create economic opportunity for every one of its members, to allow the members to create economic opportunity together. So that means getting to know each other, getting to know the fabric of what we do, and working out how that all works. That's where many people have a bit of an ick moment with all of this, because there are many people who preferred it the way it was. Here's the thing, buy a thing, because that makes it more difficult now, or more tricky for people who don't know how to network. Once you can think about this as being, imagine the most important trade show for your sector, but it's only on once every 2 years, or it's only on once every year, and it moves about, and it's in Barcelona, it's in London, you can't afford to go, but it's very time bound, and it's a short time. It's the build up to it, the event, and then the follow up afterwards. It's very time bound and limiting. This networking platform, this networking event is open 24/7. It's open all the time. It's open all the time. You can connect with people. You can have conversations. You can create content that may inspire people to reach out to you and say, hi, I really, Edward, I read your article about tech startups and tech founders. I found it inspiring. I'd love to meet you and have a cup of coffee. Networking, it's beautiful. It was never about buy my stuff. It was always about getting to know each other. So the main platform for professionals is LinkedIn, because it is the world's largest professional networking site. What you do there will define how successful it is for you. And that's what we train organizations to do, is to take the sting out of it. You might be sitting there thinking, as you said, the co-founder or the founder or the CEO sitting there thinking, I hate social media. I just hate it. Here's a secret. I'm not a huge fan either. Here's a secret.
Well, you wouldn't believe that, Eric. You're a pro.
Yeah. But the fact is, you won't find me posting my breakfast on Facebook. You won't find me doing a lot on. I've chosen 2 platforms for commercial reasons. For commercial reasons, for revenue, profit, EBITDA, for connections, conversations, relationships. Conversations being the main thing. I am there to have and to train people how to meet people, have conversations that will become economic opportunity that you then create. Put it this way, if I win the Euro Millions on Friday, you might never see me again, Edward.
What?
You might
Oh,
never see me again.
can't have that.
I'm here because this is business networking at its finest. And if you can take that chip out that, oh, it's not the way it was better when it was just a jobs board, it's not as professional as it used to be, it's becoming more like Facebook. Well, hold on a minute. They want this to be, I mean, if you look at the LinkedIn's policies these days, it's all about diversity and inclusion. It's all about mental wellness and well-being. It's all about all these amazing things. It's all about leadership. It's all about all these beautiful, that some people might, I don't think they're soft issues. I think they're hard issues, important issues. Some people might call them softer issues. When you start to introduce all of this stuff, it makes a lovely, vibrant digital network of people getting to know each other and then working out if they could maybe create some little commercial spark together. It's a networking site. The more people are trying to force buy my stuff. When I first got into this, the platform was just flooded with buy my stuff. When I started making videos about thought leadership and all of that, I would get absolutely attacked. You know, this is not what this platform's for. Well, actually, even the owners of the platform don't agree with you. They want this to be a place where people see something, have a little think about it, and reach out.
Yeah.
Saw your video, Edward. Really inspired me. I'm struggling with that too. I'd love to have a Zoom call or a cup of coffee with you. And then we're off on a journey where we're creating commercial interaction. So LinkedIn primarily, but then depending on the type of company and the type of audience they're looking for, that needs to come out in the strategy too. Who are the audience we're going for? Well, actually, we want sales. So we're going to go to LinkedIn because all of our clients are there. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, we're special, we're not like other companies, you're not that special. I'm really sorry to say you're not that special. I get this all the time from weirdly scientific companies. Well, none of our clients are on LinkedIn. Give me a day, I'll come back to you. We've found 250,000 people.
Yeah.
You know, there's 1.2 billion professionals on there now. So I find I used to get all nervous about that when people would say, well, we've had a look, none of our clients are there. They are there. So we'll use LinkedIn for clients. We'll use LinkedIn for conversations. We'll use LinkedIn to attract new hires, to attract investors, to attract partners, to attract suppliers. That is where we do all that lovely influence to create conversations that are commercial. It might be that we choose, because of the nature of your organization, and this is where the strategy comes in, that you're a very visual organization. You're very visual, and you lend yourself very well to video and exciting fly-throughs or fly-throughs of technology or whatever it might be. Or you might have really interesting technology that moves and it's all fantastic.
Yeah.
In a Heath Robinson type thing where this all goes there. Now that might be very good to have a YouTube strategy where we can then make shorts that we could put maybe across Instagram and TikTok if that was something that we developed into your strategy. There are companies where we just do LinkedIn.
Yeah.
They're very conservative organizations. You know, I work with a lot of professional services organizations. The lawyers and the accountants don't have a lot of great video. Don't have a lot of cool stuff to show. So if that would be something, and we would use that for digital spread and use that just to get digital growth. But the main place for, I'm going to go out and say it, I've never said it on a webinar before, every professional who's trying to find something, a job, an investor, a client, a partner, needs to be on, active, and strategic about the way they use LinkedIn as a primary leg. And then we can look at anything else that might fit to enhance our digital spread.
That's really powerful, because I think when I think of the energy tech founders that we work with, not to be too stereotypical, but, you know, two challenges they have is, one, as early stage founders, they are the CEO of everything. So they can't delegate something to a salesperson yet because they don't exist. And also in this heavy engineering space, possibly the personalities of going to sales events and having to be quite extroverted and having to talk to lots of people and having to have a lot of near misses. It's almost like dating. You're having to go to a big conference and you're having to talk to lots of people and they might not be your target customer and you've wasted a lot of time. It sounds like having the right digital strategy for this particular type of founder allows them, it democratizes the ability to talk to lots of people and build professional networks, but then also gives you more efficiency in terms of knowing, well, actually, I have a have a touch point. So LinkedIn's obviously a clear one to dive in on. And I think maybe 3 phases of the next discussion I think would be useful based on what you've said is, one, it'd be really nice to know, if you're an EnergyTech founder, what the foundations look like in terms of how you build that digital influence. And then maybe later on, we'll maybe look at 2 lenses in terms of, well, if you're pre-revenue, how do you use that? So we've got the foundations. What do we do? We've got nothing to sell yet. But then, okay, now we do have something to sell. What do we do? So let's maybe go to foundations first. You work a lot with our TechX startups. And if I recall the cohort in 2025, we gave them some ambitious challenges around posting and building their profiles and using their digital tools available to them. So what were some of the tips that you were giving them to build that foundation? Maybe a founder's got 20 followers and they don't even have a profile picture on LinkedIn and they've only ever logged in once or twice, or maybe they've got something going on. What would you do to help them get the foundations right for using that as a tool for digital commercial activity?
Thank you. Wow, what a brilliant question. I'm going to take a little moment to just have a little breath. Right. And here we go. So it starts with thinking, not just jumping in. Lots of people jump to content as the answer for everything because they see everyone producing content. Jumping into content and just saying, yeah, put out some content is the equivalent of just throwing a set of car keys at someone who's never driven before and say, yeah, just go. You'll be fine. Just go and do it. We're jumping to the end point, not the first point. Use the word foundation, and that's what we talk about. Mm-hmm. So after you've developed your strategy, and you can actually do a really quick strategy. Why am I here? What am I trying to achieve? How am I going to do that? What would I need to do in order to achieve that? And what are my checks and balances going to be? What am I going to look at analytics-wise? What does good look like? What's a good result? I'm going to do this for 3 to 6 months, and then I'm going to have a look at what I've been doing. Is it working? Is it failing? Do I just look like everyone else? Is it actually contributing any value to my life? And keep those, why am I doing this? What am I trying to achieve? Keep those headlines up there as a true north throughout the whole thing. Many people are just firing everything at social media with no real idea of why they want to be there and what they're trying to achieve. So why am I doing this? What do I want to achieve? How do I want to come across? That's a very important part, understanding your digital identity. How do I want to come across? Do I want to come across as everybody's friend? Am I just there to be an entertainer? Do I want to be known as this sort of like learned engineer? Do I want to be known as a kind of statesman of my sector? Do I want to be known as a disruptor? Do I want to be known as this sort of like rebel that's going to change the energy sector? What is my tone and how am I going to develop that throughout? So writing down that strategy and keeping that strategy as your true north is important. Once you've got that, and we don't need to go into chapter and verse, it doesn't need to be a 5,000 word document. Why am I here? What am I doing this for? And how do I want to come across? Then we can start to build the foundation, which we're going to go into on the program, the next TechX with this new cohort, which I'm very excited about. Then we start to build the foundation. So, and it makes absolute sense. This isn't brain surgery. I've stopped using the term "this isn't rocket scientist" because a rocket scientist once said to me, "Actually, rocket science isn't that complicated."
I would argue different, but yeah.
Yeah, but he was a rocket scientist, so yeah, use brain surgery. That's far more complicated. Yeah. So then we set the foundation. You wouldn't walk out to, that whole everybody's started with content, just throwing stuff out. You wouldn't walk out to a crowded forest full of trees and say, "We're going to build a house here. First job, let's order some wallpaper." Because that's what people are doing. That's what people are doing. We need to build the foundation. We need to build the foundation first before we start decorating. We build the foundation, and that is we cleared the trees, our strategy. We've got a clear vision of what we want. We then put down the concrete slab, environmentally friendly concrete slab.
Yeah, of course.
And that's the foundation, and that is our profile. Our profile needs to be attractive. It needs to be digitally optimized so that it's clocking up Google Juice and Google credit for us when we're asleep. And it needs to be fundamentally a place that people land and go, "Oh, this is interesting. This is different for the right reasons. This isn't just a plain vanilla, this is my job. This is how great I am. This is where I went to uni. This is who I've worked for." Your profile isn't a CV. Your profile isn't a CV. It's, if anything, it's supposed to be a very, very interesting shop. It stopped people in the high street, made them look over and go, "Wow, It's a cool looking shop.
Yeah.
Right. So once we've attracted them, once we've got the profile, we then develop a strategic network growth strategy so that every day we're inviting people to the store, the new shop, the attractive shop. Before we know it, we've got a crowd of people outside the shop. So we're inviting new people every day, strategic people. If we're looking for clients, we're connecting with people in a client base. If we're looking for investors, we're connecting with investors that typically invest in the kind of technology or solutions that we are working on. We get that crowd outside, and then we open the doors on launch day and we invite them in. The last thing we want is empty shelves. What we want is really engaging, fantastic, wonderful product in there, which is our content.
Yeah.
The shelves are empty, they'll just walk out. What was the point? What was the point in coming in here / connecting with this person? The foundation looks lovely, profile looks lovely, but it's empty inside. What keeps people in the store and coming back to the store is really, really, really engaging and interesting content in some form of regularity. So the shelves aren't bare for a month.
Yeah.
They're continually being topped up with interesting content that's inspiring, educational, challenging, to the point where I'm going, do you know what? I really like it in here.
Yeah.
Do you like it in here? Yeah, I really like it in here too. I want to meet with the person that owns this store because they are a very, very interesting person. And do you know what? From the stuff they have on their shelves and from the look of this store, I think we could do stuff together.
Yeah.
I think or I would like to work here, or I would like to give them money to expand. So I don't know if that little metaphor or analogy works, but the foundation is pretty much we're putting the windows in, we're putting the doors on, and on opening day, this place looks magnificent enough for people to look over and go, wow, that looks nothing like I've ever seen on the high street. That's your profile.
Yeah.
The strategic network growth strategy brings people to the door. We open the door, we invite them in, and we keep them engaged and interested, and we keep their attention with our content.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah, really useful. And I think a lot of founders think if I'm not in sales mode, then that having that storefront, having that visibility isn't that important. But actually, yes, there's the network growth in terms of building that network. But I can tell you from a program point of view, every applicant that gets onto the TechX program, if they get further along, before they've even been awarded a place, one of the first places we're looking is their LinkedIn profile, because it is such a valuable tool to understand who it is that we are supporting, what is their background like. And I imagine it's the same for investors, for potential customers. So even if you're having these offline introductions, it's likely that they're going to look at that profile as a sort of a judging point. And you mentioned about trying to make it engaging. What are some examples that you've seen of profiles when you go in and have a look at someone's, where it would go from being maybe a bit too bland in a CV to actually standing out and having a bit of impact? Is there any examples that you've seen where you went, actually, that's
I mean, that's what we train people to do is have a profile that catches the attention and makes people want to delve in further. There's nothing better than having a really long list of experience, which requires 3 or 4 new pages opened and someone going in the DMs, oh, by the way, it was really nice to meet you. I can't believe you worked there, because I used to work there. And you're like, wow, that's a deep dive. That's a deep dive. That's a 3 or 4 page click to get to that point to establish that we've worked together. From the top to the bottom, LinkedIn and the internet views your LinkedIn profile as one single sheet of paper. So in my perspective, and what we train people is, it's one sheet of paper, but let's chop it into books. Let's use the book analogy. You're in the airport, you've got a 5-hour flight ahead of you. What's the first thing that attracts you when you walk into W.H. Smith's or John Menzies, whatever it might be, the bookstore, and you think, right, I'm going to get a nice book? First thing that might catch your attention is the cover, right? So if the covers all look the same and there's one that stands out, that's the one that maybe grabs your attention. So you pick it up, you open it up, and you read the preface, right? The preface is your about section. Most people in their about sections just say, I am a global fantastic business founder. I turn companies upside down. This is my 5th flip. I'm an amazing leader. I'm an outstanding commercial mind. I'm a business transformer. I'm a disruptor. So what if you flipped that? What if your about section was a story about your life that people could relate to. I'm not saying avoid your commercial life, but a lovely story that brings people. So how did I end up here? How did I end up throwing away the shackles of a successful regular salary in a corporate company to found a tech startup in energy? Some would say it's high risk. I didn't think so. I never thought so. And I've embraced this challenge. It probably goes back to the fact that I was into tech as a kid. I was always taking things apart. Draw us in with a story.
Mhm.
Draw us in with the story of why you're here. What brought you here? That's the top section of your profile. Now, there are other buttons to click to make it more optimized that we're going to go into on the program. But then when we get into, so that's the preface. The chapters of your book are your experience section. So we want a story. We want a story for every one of your experiences that you've had. Now, if you're straight out of uni, don't worry about it because you've had experience. If you worked in a bar, you worked in a bar. But tell us the story of why you chose to work in your bar, because it was putting you through university and allowing you to focus. It was exhausting, but you were able to fund yourself doing your thing. Whatever it might be, give us the chapters of your book because they all are interesting. If you were at uni, tell us what uni was all about. Put that in as experience. You maybe worked in a couple of engineering companies to start with. Put those in there as your experience. Tell us what you're into. Well, it was my first foray into feed, front-end engineering design, or my first foray into structures or electrical engineering. Tell us the story. Tell us the story. And then there's nothing better if you turn to the back of that book and it says someone that you really admire, someone that you recognize. Edward Pollock says, I read this book and I really enjoyed it. I think the author is a terrific person and I'm inspired by their journey. Mariah from NZTC says, I've known this person for a long time. It was great to see this book coming out. Recommendations from real live people. They're the fundamental basics. They're the fundamental basics of a profile. Fundamentally, it needs to catch the eye for the right reasons, not in a silly way. Most people put in their headlines, CEO, because they think that's what you do. LinkedIn will tell you themselves. It'll say, tell us who you are in your headline. So when I see CEO and a bland old banner and a photograph that's from 15 years ago, or it's with their back to me up a mountain, blurry, think about how that impacts when it lands. Will it make people go, right, the banner's fantastic, the photograph's great, the headline's inspiring, changing the face of modern energy for a new, clean era? Something like that. I'm coming up with nonsense
on the spot.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Oh, what does that mean? Read the about section. This is incredible. Go down to the experience section. Go down to the recommendations. Oh, this profile also has a lot of content coming into it too. This is a cool place to be. I want to be here. Now remember, we're not doing this for fun. We're not doing this for giggles. We're not doing this just because you have to have a LinkedIn profile. We're doing this as part of a detailed commercial strategy to allow you to get what you want, more conversations with people that can help your commercial outlook. So why wouldn't we? 85% of all, sales to B2B or all commercial interactions are going to occur in a digital channel. Why wouldn't we want to be the best in our sector? Why wouldn't we want that? Why wouldn't we want the lion's share of conversations? We always get, particularly with super technical people, we always get the raised eyebrows. Yeah, well, I've got my own opinions about social media. Park them. We had people with their own opinions about social media on previous cohorts. The first time they get that, they start following the program, and the first time they get an angel get in touch with them and say, I want to give you money for a small, tiny percentage. And that happened in the last cohort. It happened twice. The first time they put their preconceptions to one side and a new partner comes in and says, I'm really inspired by what you're doing. I'm following you now on LinkedIn. I'm really inspired by what you're doing. Can we have a conversation about a collaboration? The first time someone steps forward and says, I saw your thing about you need someone to be the first person to use your thing on a project. I think it could be us. Suddenly all those preconceptions just go away.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about piddling about. It's not about just, sticking out content, promotional content. We're at another show. We're doing a thing. All this promotional stuff. This is getting under the skin of people to the point where they feel compelled to reach out and engage with you commercially.
So useful. And we've seen it with the entrepreneurs who've been through the TechX Accelerator program. And I think in the same way in a physical networking environment, when you're stood next to someone, and some of the hardest conversations are where it is just so professional, how are you? What's going on? This is my job. There's nothing to go off. There's not a generous conversation. You've got no jumping off points to have that. And you can see the same in the digital environment. And sometimes we're on the program and it's all function, business, and you've really not got much to go off. And we've seen some of the posts that have come up from the entrepreneurs where they're sharing bits of their lives and their history and their stories and their passions and their hobbies that create not just a job title that we're used to seeing and hearing, but actually the person. And you can kind of tell, oh, so you did that, and that's where the passion came. And it gives you so much easier conversation opportunities and follow-on conversations. And I think that's the side that's been so powerful to me, that it fleshes people out because you're being more generous. It's content not just for the sake of likes and follows, but actually if someone then goes onto your profile and is interested in following up, they don't have that awkward thing of what am I going to say. There's something there they can latch onto. I work there.
Yeah, we often say that if you're good at this, it turns those first meetings in boardrooms, it changes the culture, because you walk in and everyone knows you.
Mm-hmm.
You've never met. It's a lovely thing and we had one of our cohort last year who said, "Can't believe it. I've only been doing this for a couple of months. Never done it before." And a huge organization reached out to me and said, "We see that you're here. We see what you're doing. We're very interested. We're having a kind of social night tonight at a big sporting event. Do you want to come along, meet some people?" Wow. And when he walked in, they introduced him. They've never met. They introduced him and they introduced the tech.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Why they're doing your commercial work for you, which is ideal. Exactly. So we've got our foundations, we've got a sense of a strategy and what using these tools is for, and we've got a well-optimized profile, which of course would take weeks to go into all the different components and ways that you can do that. So obviously if people want to know more, they can look at Crux and speak to yourself as well. But let's say those two lenses, then you've got your profile, it's there. You're now in a pre-commercial phase. You're a startup. Some of them often worry about being in stealth mode. I don't want to talk about my business yet, or I'm not ready to start going out there, or we're still in the R&D phase. So how do you optimize your digital systems at that point? You've got nothing to sell, but you're on your profile. What are you using it for? What are the kind of content pillars that you might be suggesting at this point? Maybe what are you doing to build the right followers, or connections that you don't have in that pre-commercial, nothing to sell yet phase?
So we often work with startups that are in that pre-commercial phase, and they're in exactly that mind. We've got nothing to talk about. So what is it? Then typically you'll say, "So what is it that you guys are working on in stealth?" And they'll tell you this amazing story. It's an amazing story, absolutely amazing. So a good way to get this across is through your content, right? What we typically talk about with pre-commercial founders is you can wait until you're commercial. You can wait. Now that might be a year, 2 years, 3 years. And then you can start from ground zero and start to do all of this digital stuff from a very, very, very hamstrung, we're fully developed. You can do that, but you'll miss 1 year, 2 years, 3 years of opportunity. How about putting together a light touch strategy right now to let the world know as a professional that you are involved in a energy tech startup, and start to put out content that doesn't give the game away, doesn't give the crown jewels away on your IP, doesn't get you into any technical trouble. And we typically talk about putting out, for those type of people in that type of situation, start to put content out in a rhythm, typically in 3 main areas. First area would be problem-led content with a sort of implication on the solution. So we start to talk about the challenges that the industry's facing. We start to talk about the ideas that you've got about how technology could solve some of those problems, the inefficiencies, the risks, the outdated practices, what you're focused on improving. You're not giving the game away on how your tech works or what it is. You're starting to be known for this person that talks about these industry problems and potential solutions, what the world would look like and the sector would look like if we applied a solution. So, and that's really what buyers care about. They're not that interested in how it works. They're interested in what it's actually bringing to the world, the value of it. So that's problem-led content, brackets, with a kind of eye-on solution, but problem-led content. Second area we would ask people to focus on is people in progress. So if we are, writing content which is talking about the people on our team, it might be only 2 of you. That's still cool. That's still cool. There might be 3 of you. Tell your stories, share milestones. Today we got to MVP. Well, folks, today we were supposed to get IP through for our blah, blah, blah for our thing, but it's all falling apart. Lessons learned on the journey, the startup journey. Share it with people. Guess what? Startups will jump in with you. You'll start to grow a network of people interested. If you're in hydrogen, you'll be connecting strategically with all the hydrogen players, and they'll all be watching this young startup that's learning lessons. Discuss setbacks. Milestones and setbacks. Social media is full of, and I get this all the time, it's full of good news stories. Everyone's delighted to be at a thing. Everyone's amazed that they won an award. They're delighted to be in a black tie. They're delighted to be at the show. We're traveling again. We've just landed a big I love when I see content that says, delighted to announce we delivered a project on time and on budget for another satisfied client. Is that not what you're supposed to do?
Just baseline.
Yeah. Is that not what they paid you for?
Yeah. But they're delighted about it and have to tell you about it.
Yeah, they're delighted. We delivered a project on time. What would be more interesting would be we delivered a project late and it was over budget, which many are, but no one talks about that, right? So if you're that kind of person that talks about setbacks, that's cool. You don't have to go into the horrible aspects of all of your setbacks, but that genuine, authentic approach to startup build is very attractive. Yeah. People don't buy into faceless tech in the B2B world. They're not interested in the black box that has a flashing light on the front. They're interested in ambition, problem solving, and resilience.
Yeah.
So number 2, people in progress. And your progress is going to be lumpy. That's okay. Let us share that journey with you. That's magnificent. By the time you come commercial, you'll have built a massive network of people who are actually rooting for you. And your announcement that you're going commercial and you've got your first prototype out there and it's going into a project will actually be almost like the start of the new content journey. But you've taken us through that 1 year, 2 year, 3 year cycle of being with you on it, and it's palpable. It's brilliant. The last angle of that, so problem-led content, people in progress, proof of value. We're sadly missing this. I have lots of people telling me, my feed's just full of nonsense, just people telling me how delighted they are to have done another thing. So you can either choose to opt out because of that, or you can choose to be the kind of change that you want to see in the world. So that's the position that I take, and I take with my clients. Yeah, our feeds are just full of people saying how brilliant they are and how they've won another award and they're at another show, and it is dull. We're at a show meeting with old clients and new faces. That's what the show was there for. That's what they put the show on for. Tell us why you're there. Tell us why it's important that you're there. Tell us the new thing that you're talking about. Tell us what drove you to be at that thing. Tell the story. Tell the story. But this last thing, the proof of value, separates you from everyone who's at a show to want to buy our thing. Short, simple posts on how your tech works in the real world to provide world value, to provide sector value, to provide subsector value, pilots, trials, customer feedback. If you have customers, or the people that you've done pilots for, a screenshot of a data dashboard will never be a quote from a person who said, I never thought we were going to address this issue, but we've been working with company X, this new tech startup, and my goodness, the results are incredible. So a boring slide of a dashboard on LinkedIn is never going to beat someone from, Joanne or John from company X that everyone knows saying, we've been working with these guys and this tech is going to change the world.
Yeah.
So problem-led content, people in progress, proof of value, mix that up. Now, you could do that 3 times a week. That would be great. You could spread that out a wee bit more, but turn up at least weekly, at very least weekly.
Yeah. And I think that point about being open and vulnerable in your startup process is really powerful, because whether you're an investor or a customer, having that authentic story, and some of the most interesting posts, you've got to, you've got to be ambitious in terms of where you're going to get to. And I really like when I see big scale businesses telling the stories 10 years ago or 5 years ago. This is where we started, this is where it all went wrong, and they've got their old logos and they've got their terrible branding. And I think there's an intention behind startups that everything has to be perfect. Everything, every graphic on LinkedIn has to have our corporate branding, and it has to look all great to fit in. But actually, if your logo is going to change, your company's going to change, the tech's going to change, your people are going to change, doesn't mean you can't still keep that as your record, as your history, as your story. Because
Exactly.
then in 5 years' time, when you do have those customer stories, you could say, we first worked with them 5 years ago and it all went wrong and it wasn't
Yep,
right.
that's
And
right.
here's what we've done. And now we're their number one client, etc. Have you seen that work? Have you seen where, not just doing it in that phase, but actually where, why does this help in the long run? If they've done this activity at the starting place, it's helping them at the time. But then if they do this over a long period of time, what value do they get from doing this digital activity?
Well, you're absolutely right. For a startup, credibility is currency.
Mm,
Credibility is currency. I've never heard about you. I don't know anything about you. Or I've been watching your progress. I've been watching what you're doing. I've seen you go through all the trials. I've seen you go through all of this. I've seen the fact that you're now out in your commercial. This is really credible.
mm,
Consistent, honest telling of that story builds way faster than any polished campaign. And
yeah.
that's the new world that we live in. So you can say, well, that's not for me, and you walk away and you close yourself off to 85% of all commercial interactions on digital channels. Just walk away from it. It's cool. Everyone has an option. If you want some of that, we need to get into this, and that consistent, honest telling of the story. And we'll go into this and how you can play out that story with content plans and all of that. You know what? I once worked with an organization who were actually, I think they were my second client many years ago,
Mm,
client in the visual data space. The CEO at the end of our program, they got some massive results. They ended up speaking to clients and landing business they would never have landed because they were analog before, on the phones and by email, and trying to wait for a magazine to come around to buy a space in a magazine, or wait for the event to come, instead of taking advantage of this 24 hours, 7 days a week, doesn't stop for holidays, networking place.
mm,
And he said, you know what, Eric, I think I had a bit of a revelation last night. I've always thought I was the CEO of a visual data company. I now realize, and this really got me, it might get you, I think it might. I now realize I'm the CEO of a visual data company and a digital media company.
mm, yeah.
And that's a,
Yeah.
that's a guy in his 50s, pushing 60, that has just got this like a cold bucket of water all over him. That mapping out what they're doing, success, failures, milestones, progress, people in the team coming, that fuels their commercial growth more than any traditional old school. Put a poster at Aberdeen Airport,
Mm,
new hydrogen tech, amazing. Wait to be in the magazine in June. Phone round loads of people, send lots of emails.
mm,
This new digital influence. So we saw it with a startup. We were contacted by a startup who was trying to come out with a competitor to Teams and Zoom.
mm,
Um, we started talking to them. We're in sort of stealth mode just now because of Teams and Zoom. They're big, massive organizations,
mm,
but we think we can do it better. And our thing was start to stay in stealth mode, but start to talk about the problems. Just those
mm,
three core elements. Start to talk about the problems, the problem-led content. Start to talk about the issues and start to get people on your side with the
mm,
issues. What if there was a solution to this? Well, watch this space.
mm,
People in progress. I'm the CEO. I'm a young guy. This is our tech founder. She's absolutely fantastic. This is our blah, blah, blah. This is the team. Talk about setbacks. Well, we thought we were going to be here. We're not. Talk about milestones. We did this today. It's
mm,
absolutely great. And then proof of value. Proof of value. Just keep cycling that through. They were doing it Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Problem-led content, people in progress, proof of value, getting a real cadence, training algorithms, training networks, training the internet, just by being there. And they were all doing this. By the time they launched, they had customers.
Mm.
Customers waiting outside the store. Let us in. We're here to buy.
Mm.
So I love it. I absolutely love it. But understanding that this isn't about just putting out content on social media, the last thing we want to do. This is about creating a much more rounded, whole, compelling story of digital influence, influencing people to want to know more, to want a conversation, to want to go into their wallets and give you money, or to want to buy your thing.
Yeah. I think being able to actually functionally be represented, having that FOMO in the market so that you have this reputation of people knowing, who you are before you even are out there, I think can be so powerful. So let's switch over to that other element in terms of startups. They often go through a couple of years of development. They're now hopefully building these networks, building their credibility, talking about the problem. And now they're in this more commercial phase. They maybe are looking at trying to make those sales. And actually the pressure is on. They've got investors. They're wanting, return. How much of that, I guess, is the responsibility of the founding team, or is this still a sales function where all of this should be done by professional salespeople, or is this a collective effort? And what should those people be doing? So we're out there in the market using our digital influence. Again, what are the tools and techniques or systems that might, influence getting commercial deals through your digital platforms?
So that's fabulous. And it cuts into one of the fundamental changes. And it's quite controversial, what you've just asked. Quite controversial, Edward. I know what you're doing. But back in the day, we get in a little time capsule and go back 20 years. Marketing do stuff. They put out stuff and they try and catch the attention of people. Sales then go, this is the way it's supposed to work. Marketing put out things. They grab the attention of people. People inquire. The inquiries are handed on to sales. Sales go out and meet those people. They're really impressed. We send a proposal, or we get on a tender and we get a purchase order, and we deliver a product or service. Very simple commercial model of how it was supposed to work back in the day. Right. Okay. Just take a drink of water before this.
Oh, no, no hate.
This modern digital commercial world allows us to turn all of that on our heads, and in a way, alters all of the culture and all of the color of those old traditional models. Right. So if I am a project director at a big energy company and I'm looking for new tech, isn't it amazing that I can connect with the tech founder and have a conversation and speak at my level? Isn't it amazing that I can speak to the person who had the idea, has worked it all through technically, and speak to them, arrange a meeting with them? I've basically intercepted the whole thing. I've usurped the whole. I saw a poster. I contacted sales. I've had a sales pitch from someone who maybe didn't really understand the tech, but they put me through a 200-page slide deck. I now really want to speak to someone that really understands this and understands me. The tech founder understands me. So when we train organizations, we train people to become micro-influencers, to be able to influence their tribes all the way through the levels of an organization. So HR, HSEQ, engineering, technical, science, accounts, financial directors, the leadership team, the founders, who have we missed? Operations. All of these people, when we train them as a little army to create influence online, guess what they start doing? Connecting with people like them. Finance people connecting with finance people in the target base. Operations people connecting with operations people. There's less barriers to connection. Hi, I'm a salesperson. I'd love to connect with you. Don't think so. Hi, I'm an ops director, just like you. I've got a similar kind of background. Thought it'd be good to connect with the same kind of thing. We start having conversations. So what is it you guys are doing? Well, we're developing a bit of tech that does this, and this, because my years in the sector, I know that that's a bit of an issue. Man, we have issues like that. So many outsourced marketing organizations are losing their minds because we're going to run ads for you. We're going to get a poster in a magazine. We're going to do all of this. Actually, if you can get your people to do this in a very effective and efficient way and get it in from almost almost the inception of the organization that we are digital first from day one, all of us. Any new person that comes into the company, we're going to train them. We're going to get them to be able to produce content, which feeds back into our progress, the value that we bring to the world, addressing those problem statements. We're going to get conversations going because this starts to build and build and build and build. So that's why this is changing. No, you don't have to stick to traditional models. In fact, I met a CEO a couple of weeks ago for a cup of coffee, and it's like Groundhog Day. They set up a little startup in a very tech saturated world. They hired a salesperson because they heard this salesperson was pretty good. 6 months later, the salesperson was gone because all they were doing was setting up meetings for technical people.
Mm.
So what if you can cut that cost and cut that drama out? Now, there are brilliant salespeople out in the world, and organizations cannot do without sales, but small tech startups can actually do this in a very efficient way by meeting minds that are very similar to theirs. Now, clearly, when they expand and they become big megacorps, they're going to have sales divisions and pre-sales and all of this. They'll have market analysis and all of that. That's fine. But in the early stages, when every penny's a prisoner and you're looking at where you're going to be investing best value, there's a temptation to go out and say, we need marketing. We're tech people. We don't understand marketing. Actually, the best marketer in this digital world is you. Your voice, your history, your expertise, your specialism, the value you bring to the world, and the fact that you're just like the people in your client base and you understand their problems. You understand their problems. And you've got a solution.
Yeah, really interesting. And there might be a bit of a challenge. Some of the people watching this might be working at startup companies. I think for founders, there's this sense that the company and me are one, and it's all well linked. You know, my LinkedIn profile, my reputation instantly will benefit the company and benefit me. How do you ever get pushback and guests from employees or people at the company about how they balance, well, this is my profile and my influence and my reputation, and I want to be heard of this particular voice. I don't want to be overly representing the brand. And then I guess the same on the founder's side. You know, you've got companies like, I guess, Elon Musk and Richard Branson, where their face is the brand. But some founders don't want that. They want, you know, the company to be the first thing, and they're almost a silent part of that. How do people balance that mix between the company and the corporate and the product and being the heart of the content, and you, the individual, your career, no matter where you end up going, as part of what you talk about in your digital influence? Is there any pushback, and how do you respond to that?
So that very rarely there is, because I would say back in the early days, there was a fair bit of pushback. But then as people started becoming aware of competitors or other people in their network who are just like them, who are starting to get lots of attention, lots of followers, lots of conversations, lots of interaction, and they're finding out that they're going along to see that client, but that's been awarded to them. When you start to see all of that, and we're now in 2025, we're starting to see more of an acceptance now. Yeah. So we rarely get pushback. Back in the day, when I first started this in 2018, we had some people that were told to be on our program, our course, and they were like, this is my profile. This is my profile. I find in the startup world, it's a little bit more different. It's a little bit different. Maybe in a large corporate, you might get more of a pushback back in the day, less now. But in the startup world, there is more, and I sense this more, that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
If I succeed and I'm good at this, whether I'm a electrical engineering graduate that's just come out of university, and if I can put out content that means that I'm arranging meetings and going and saying, God, you know, I've just put out a piece of content there, and this company's all over it saying they want a meeting with us and all of that, that's to be celebrated. That person is contributing to the growth of that company. And if this is my profile, why would I use my profile to promote the brand is a problem. There's maybe a cultural issue, and that the organization hasn't really accepted the fact that this new digital way is all of us together. And if we all want the success, nobody wants to work for a company that's going to be out of business next year.
Yeah.
We want careers. You know, young grads can eventually become the CEO. But so accepting the fact that you're, if you simply hate social media, you're not doing it. Absolutely not. I don't have any social media pages. I think it's evil. Fine, walk away from it. But if you are at all interested in the growth of the company that you work for, accept it, learn it, because when it comes time for that review, so we asked you all to get into digital. What have you done? Well, I've grown my network by 5,000 people in a year. I've set up 30 meetings for the company, and we've converted 5 of those into business, which I'm now working on the projects. And it's a joy, because I saw that from the first meeting right all the way through to delivery, and it's wonderful. So we get less pushback now. Your second question was about the company, the brand, how to balance the company page. So on LinkedIn, you have company pages. Everyone's associated to a company page. The company page is essential, but often misunderstood. And it's just a place where it's just dry corporate brochures. The corporate page gives a bit of structure. So actually, once we get into this, for the organizations that are really into it, we have a company page strategy to keep it alive, to keep it bouncing. It gives structure. So we have a strategy and a tone of voice in our company page, which is definitely not boring and just brochures and document shares of, the personal profiles give soul. Structure on the company page, soul, multiple souls. Startups grow faster when founders are visible. Now, whether you're the most introverted person in the world that absolutely hates social media, if you can, with a bit of training, and it takes a little bit of work, and actually we've found with really introverted people, this social media is actually way easier than going to a public networking event, because you can start to network and grow your network and have conversations in DMs. Slightly easier than being in a room, being forced to pitch in 30 seconds to whoever it might be, or shaking loads of hands and having small talk conversations. So actually, this is beautifully designed for introverts and extroverts alike. So when the founders are visible, people connect with them. People find it harder to connect with a logo and a company page. I can't really have a deep connection there, a deep connection. I make a comment on a company page, a large PLC's company page. Is the person that runs that company page interrupting the board meeting, running into the board meeting to go, stop, everyone stop. Eric Doyle just put an excellent comment on our company post. What are we going to do about this? And the CEO says, right, everybody stop this board meeting. We're going to write a strategy on how we're going to respond. It's usually dealt with someone in marketing. It's usually just there to get digital spread. If you have a good strategy for your company page, but change it to give it structure, that's a good thing. But the personal profiles give the soul of the organization. So the company page hosts interesting news, proof points. Your profiles tell the story, what you're learning, what you're seeing, what you're building. And I sometimes say there's people get wrapped up about this. No, there's no place for personal content. I don't think about it as personal content. It's a little insight into your personality, and you choose how deep you go with that. You choose how deep you go with that, how many layers you take off the onion. What I can say is the more layers you can take off the onion, the better it'll be for you. But I can't expect that on a 2-module program. But the more you can give us an insight into that personality, the more we're going to start to know you and actually see you as a friendly face who's really clever, who might be able to solve my problems.
Really useful. Thank you. We're almost running out of time in today's session, but we've delved into a lot of really powerful things. The big stat around 85% of potential future engagement happens in digital in terms of sales and enablement activity.
In the B2B world.
In the B2B world. Yeah, really powerful stat that I guess is worth flagging. We've looked at how we look at your profile as your foundation. We've looked at how you can build some of the content when you're in that development phase and problem, people and progress, proof of value. And then when you get into that commercial phase, how you can then scale that up. I guess if you were speaking to an EnergyTech founder and they were looking for any other practical tips to say, I just want to know some helpful hints about what should I be doing? Is there anything else we haven't talked about today, Eric, that you would say a key area would also be this, if there's anything else that comes to mind?
Well, I can. So as well as being a training consultant with 25 years of commercial experience in the energy sector who started this, I'm also a tech founder myself, Edward. Yeah. Not in the energy sector. I'm building a digital platform. So I'm almost at MVP, and I kind of understand the journey a little bit. My advice would be try to edge the business regardless of your preconceptions. And I totally get it. I wouldn't have been up for this in 2015, 2016. I would have laughed it off. No, social media is not for me. Try to alter your perspective, first of all, or none of this is going to work. Try to look upon digital media, those big stats that we've given there. There's a lot here to be gained. simply saying, well, yeah, LinkedIn's become a bit like Facebook, closes off all of that opportunity. So park yourself. You were bold enough to be able to take on an industry, be bold enough to say, hold on a minute, maybe if I think about this differently, maybe I'm getting out of the way of the business growing. So this sounds awful, but it's meant with love and it's meant with help to all founders. Get out of your own way. Get out of your own way. All those roadblocks, LinkedIn's becoming like Facebook. I don't want to put myself out there. What if you took all those off the road and said, right, we're actually going to approach this from a very, very commercial perspective. And we're here because we want to achieve these things and we're going to put a bit of a strategy into it. Getting over that hurdle is way better than me saying, click this button, do that, have this, blah, blah, blah. We could talk for another hour on just content and how to deal with it. But actually, it's getting out of your own way, accepting that digital is going to save you money and make you money. Save you money and make you money. And it's all about some sort of commercial gain. Investors, new hires, partners, collaborators, clients.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Eric. We've seen how all of this is developed on the program because you're obviously one of our valued partners on the TechX Accelerator program and work deeply with a lot of the founders to go in a lot more detail than we've been able to cover today. And I think as we've drawn out in the conversation, we've seen it work. We've seen how helpful it can be for the founders to really have that empowering profile, that presence, and as they scale their businesses to have that digital commercial strategy as well. So really value your time. Thank you so much, Eric, for joining this. If others want to know more, if you're maybe alumni or interested in applying to the program, of course, when you get onto the program, you hopefully get lots of Eric's lovely time. But otherwise, you can find Eric Doyle on LinkedIn, of course. But also, what else can they find you? I guess.
So the website is www.consultcrux.com. You can find us there. I'm sort of regularly in the world's largest digital networking site. You can get me on LinkedIn, Eric Doyle. I think it's FISP, Fellow of the Institute of Sales Professionals, in brackets. It looks like this. This is what I look like. It's a very common look, but you can find me, and I'd love to connect with you and extend the conversation.
Yeah. And just if you do go to his profile, you'll find, was it Jamie? You've got Jason. You've got who's your third one? John, exactly. So
Julian, the chairman.
Yes, exactly. So if you don't know what that means, have a look at Eric's profile and you'll soon understand a little bit about how he puts his tips into practice. So thank you so much for joining along today and appreciate your time. Continue to have a look for any more EnergyTech Essentials as we work with our valued partners to dive into some of the topics that are really powerful for EnergyTech founders. Thank you for your time today and enjoy the rest of your day.